Thank you, Senator. Mr. Secretary, I want to go back to some of your earlier testimony, be sure I heard it correctly. The 76-day period you're talking about, that's the period between the time that President Trump was elected and President Biden left office, is that right?
That is correct.
And during that short period of time, 76 days, how much taxpayer money went out the door of the Department of Energy?
From the Loan Program Office in loans and commitments, $93 billion. Well over twice as much as in the previous 15 years. So,
how do you vet and do due diligence on a loan in 76 days? One loan, much less $93 billion.
Welcome to Liberty Trigger. Folks, you are not going to believe what I just heard in this Senate hearing. The Department of Energy, yes, the same bureaucratic swamp department that wants to regulate your stove, your car, and your entire way of life, just admitted to something so outrageous, so reckless, that every taxpayer in America should be furious. Here's the deal. In just 76 days, that's right, barely over 2 months between President Trump's election and Joe Biden leaving office, the Department of Energy handed out $93 billion in loans and commitments. $93 billion of your money. That's more than twice the total what they handed out in the previous 15 years combined. Let that sink in.
How do you do it?
I think it's probably pretty clear it wasn't done in many cases. As I mentioned, I'm told I'm holding back clearly in place stuff. There is lots of funds that have gone out the door and commitments that were made from businesses that provided no business plan, no numbers about their own financial solvency or how this project
So
can
you're
actually
telling
work.
me that the Department of Energy, in the 76-day period, before their boss was going to leave office, gave or loaned money to entities that had no business plan?
Correct.
No financials?
Correct. A number of those were were before the 76-day period as well. I've come in with great concern about how this institution, this great American institution, has been run and how American taxpayer money has been handled. I'm sorry everyone's upset that we're taking some time to do it, but what we've seen and what the record shows
I'm
is
not
just
upset. Could it be that a lot of people say you haven't returned your calls? Could it be that you and your colleagues have returned the calls, but the people calling just didn't like the answer? Could that be a possibility?
I'm not aware of that. You know, I give my cell phone number to any senator that wants
I know you
it,
do.
and I return my calls.
I mean, has your department gone dark? Somebody said your department's gone dark. Is it dark over there?
It doesn't look dark behind me.
I don't see any of you sitting on your hands. Somebody made that charge. I see everybody's hands. Let me ask you something else, Mr. Secretary. Does anybody ever come to the Department of Energy to get some of this free money and lie to you?
I have not experienced that, but I think it's a reasonable assumption that that has happened.
Does anybody ever come to you? Or is it conceivable that some of these folks that heard about this free money came to you with a half-baked idea?
I think it's very conceivable. In fact, I've seen such plans that were half-baked would be charitable.
That didn't have a business plan, right?
Correct. A promise to develop one, to find a location.
Just give me the money and I'll develop the plan later.
Correct.
And now you're going back through, not money that's already been contracted, but you're going back through and checking each one of these loans and these grants to make sure there was no stealing, aren't you?
We are.
And you make sure there was no incompetence, aren't you? Is that correct?
We're looking at that, and yeah, my blood pressure is rising right now just thinking about what we have seen and what did happen at the department.
And you're going to tell some of these boondoggles no, aren't you?
That's correct.
And they're going to be upset, aren't they?
That's correct.
And they ought to be upset, shouldn't they?
I don't think they should be upset. I think they should be ashamed.
It's rare that I'm speechless. But I want to be sure I understood. The people running the Department of Energy for President Biden's administration shoveled $93 billion, not million, $93 billion out the door in 76 days, and it just happened to be the time between when President Trump was elected and President Biden, their boss, was leaving. Is that right?
It is correct and distasteful. Confidence undermining.
My God. Look, I hope you take whatever time you need to go through all of these projects penny by penny. I mean, I've heard this testimony today. Well, it'll cost jobs in my state. If somebody steals $50 million and goes and spends the money in their state, that's going to stimulate the economy, isn't it?
Yes, it will.
But that's still stealing, isn't it?
Companies walked in with no business plan, no financials, no solid project proposal, and walked out with taxpayer cash. Some came in with half-baked ideas, literally saying, "Give me the money now, I'll figure out the plan later." And DOE rubber-stamped it. This isn't just incompetence. This is corruption, plain and simple. It's the swamp shoveling money out the door to their friends, their pet projects, and their green boondoggles. They weren't investing in America. They were throwing your money into a black hole. And get this, since 2021, DOE's budget has ballooned from $60 billion to $160 billion. That's nearly tripling their budget, while hardworking Americans can't even afford groceries or gas. They act like taxpayer dollars are ditch water to be splashed around with no accountability. Now, the Secretary admitted, on record, that yes, they're finally reviewing these projects. Yes, some were half-baked. Yes, some may have been outright fraud. And yes, they're going to have to cancel some of these boondoggles. But here's the problem. By the time government bureaucrats review anything, the money's already gone. And when it's gone, it's gone. Look, I don't care if some of these crooks spent money in your state and created a few jobs. If it was stolen, if it was fraudulent, if it was wasted, it is still illegal. Stealing $50 million and creating temporary jobs doesn't make it right. That's still theft. That's still corruption. That's still spitting in the face of every hard-working taxpayer in this country. And here's the kicker. They admitted DOE has 16,000 employees right now, and they're cutting thousands. Finally, some common sense. Every real business in America has to cut costs when they overspend. But in Washington, D.C., it's easier to divorce your spouse and fire a federal employee. That's the broken system we're dealing with. This is why Trump was right. He had the guts to say, do the right thing, even if it's hard. Cut the waste. Fire the incompetence. Drain the swamp. And that's exactly what needs to keep happening. Because if we don't, these bureaucrats will keep feeding at the trough with all 4 feet and their snout buried deep, while you and I pay the price. Let me be clear. This is not just wasteful spending. This undermines confidence in our government. This undermines faith in our institutions. When the American people see their leaders shoveling out money like this, with no plan, no oversight, and no accountability, why would they trust anything else these agencies say? So what's the solution? Reject the boondoggles. Expose the fraud. And for heaven's sake, hold these people accountable. If companies lied, prosecute them. If bureaucrats broke the law, fire them. No more excuses. No more business as usual. The American people deserve better. Folks, this is your money. Your children's future. $93 billion in 76 days is not a clerical error. It's not a mistake. It's the swamp feeding itself. And unless we demand accountability, it will happen again and again. This is why we fight. This is why we speak up. And this is why the America First movement matters now more than ever. If you're as outraged as I am, hit that like button, share this video, and drop a comment below. I want to hear what you think. Should these bureaucrats be investigated? Should these companies be forced to pay back every dime? Let's get this conversation going. And as always, stay strong, stay free, and God bless America.